Until now, we have a very basic Angular application, as you can see. This h1 tag is basically a part of the layout page. Okay, so it will always be there no matter what page I am on. And now, depending upon the route that I gave in the URL, the pages will keep changing, and those pages will be coming over here below this title. Okay, in the place of this router outlet. Okay, now let us create few components and create some routes for them, so that as and when I keep changing the routes in the URL, those pages keep switching over here at the bottom, whereas the header will always remain the same because it's part of your layout page. Okay, so let's create a couple of components. Let us head to the code. Here in the terminal you can see that already ngserve command is running, so I cannot write anything more in this particular terminal window. So I can always create another terminal window which will run side by side. So click on this button, or alternatively you can have Control Shift backtick. So that will create another terminal window. You can always switch between the terminal windows from this drop down. So in the second terminal window, let me see ls, and I can write ng for Angular, generate for G, and C for component, and whichever component name I want. Like let us say I want employees component. Oh, once again it is saying that it should be run in the project because the terminals by default get created in this particular folder because we have opened this particular folder only. Okay, so I need to give all the ng generate commands inside UI, or any Angular commands for that matter, in the UI folder. Okay, so what I can do is in the terminal I can write cd UI, and then I can repeat the same command. Now notice that it has created this component. So the only thing it did is in the app folder it has created another folder, employees, and inside that it has created this component.ts file. So this is created, and it edited or updated app module.ts. Okay, now notice that it has done a very minimalistic job over here also, because the entire project that you created was created with minimal flag. So even the components do not have spec file, they do not have template file, they have inline templating and inline styling. Okay, so it is minimalistic. Let us go and see how it has formed it. So this is that folder, and this is that components.ts file. You can very well close this terminal window, don't worry, it will run in the background. Okay, it is still running in the background. If you want to open it again, see, you're still over there, and terminal window number 1 is also working fine, so don't worry about them, you can always close them. Now here the template just has employees work. Okay, in the routing we do not have any routes at the moment, so we cannot go to this component and see. Now what we want is, we want to create some route which will redirect us to this particular component. Okay, so how can we do that? Just go to this routes and create a JSON. Now this is a JSON, right? Now this is as good as a route. Every route can have path and component. So here for the path you will write employees, and for component you will write whichever component you want. Like I want employees component. So notice that the IntelliSense is prompting me that probably you want this particular component. As soon as I click over here, that component came, and now control dot, what this will do is it will tell you how to import it. Okay, you don't have to remember anything, just click on this and it will get imported. Now again, this path I have given quotes over here. For component I did not give a quote, so either I can give a quote like this, so just select it and press the quote, so it will get encompassed in a quote, or even if I don't give a quote, then also it will work fine. Besides, I've also given a few settings in my Visual Studio IDE that as soon as I save my file, it will get auto formatted. So I'm saving it now, so these codes will go away. See, the codes have gone away and it has refactored itself. So if you also want the setting, then just press Control, comma. It will open your settings for the IDE, and here you select auto save equal to after delay. and give some delay. It is 1 second over here, effectively, I can say. Another setting that I've done is format on save. Format on save. So format on save is to be checked. And then you should also give a default formatter. So default formatter. My default formatter is prettier. So what is prettier now? It is an extension of VS Code IDE. Okay, so you can also search for prettier code formatter and you can install it. So this is what I've done, and that enables me to do such sleek things that I can just save a file and it gets auto formatted. Okay, and even if I just modify the file, then it will get saved automatically. But when I say Control S, at that time it will get formatted as well for me. So this is what I can do. So until now we have just created this particular route. Let us see that in action. If I don't give anything, then of course I don't see any route getting displayed over here. But if I give a route like employees, then notice here that employees component is getting displayed properly. Okay, and once again it is being displayed at the bottom. It is basically just replacing this router outlet, and this H1 being a part of the layout page is always shown for every route. Okay, now let us create some other component. Let me create a component by name employee details, and let me create a similar route for it. So I'll just copy this route and create a similar route. Copy, comma, paste. Yeah, so here the route should be like this, that after employees I can give a parameter called ID. So here in routing, colon means it's a parameter. Okay, so whenever you say employees slash colon something, then that colon ID is your parameter. And the component that you want to route to is employee details component. Once again, control dot enter. Okay, now let us see that in action. If I don't give anything, then nothing. If I give employees, then employees component is getting called. But when I say employees followed by some number, let us say 1 or 2, then I get employee details component. And of course this header is common for all the routes, that means for all the components, because over here header is outside, it is a part of the layout page, and only this part changes with the routing. Okay, now let us get a little more creative. When you give nothing as the route, then nothing gets displayed over here, right? So for blank route also I want to redirect to employees component, let us say. So how do I do that? For that I will have to create a empty route. I'll just copy this line, paste it there. I'll say when the path is blank, then also you navigate to employees component. I'll save it, and now I will reload the page. Notice that even though I'm on a blank route, it is showing me employees component. Okay, but now it doesn't really look that good. Actually, it should, whenever it is showing employees, it should actually be going to this particular route, employees. Okay, so it will look elegant. Okay, so only when employees is written over here, at that time I should see this thing. And if I do not write anything, then by default it should redirect itself to this particular route. Now how can I do that? So I will just copy this particular path and I will paste it right over here, and this time I will give the path as blank, and instead of giving a component I'll just say that whenever blank is given, then you should redirect to some different path. And which is that path? Now I'll give as this particular path, employees. Okay, and don't worry, even if you give single quotes, as soon as you save it, prettier will convert it to double quotes. See, in TypeScript or in JavaScript, you can use single quotes or double quotes. You can use any one of them, but as per the linting rules, that is static code analysis linting rules. Okay, it is always good to have double quotes, and that is why as soon as you save it, you have save on a format on save enabled, and that is why the default formatter will kick in, and the default formatter is your prettier, and prettier will apply its rules, and it will understand that single quotes aren't very good. You should be converting it to double quotes wherever possible, and so it has just converted it to double quotes. Okay, so don't worry about it, just save the file and prettier will take care of everything else. Now here the third thing that you need to give is path match is equal to full. Save it. And now if you don't give any route over here, then you automatically get rerouted to employees route, and definitely employees is showing over here. So this is how your routing works. Now let us say that I give some route which does not exist in my routing mechanism. So in that case, what happens? In that case, it does not land me up to any route. Okay, it is not giving me any component, and this is not very pretty for me. I should be getting some message over here saying that your URL is not correct or something like that. It should not redirect me to the blank route and not show anything. It doesn't look good. And more interestingly, if I would have written here some component name, like let us say component employees component, as we had done this in the past, then in that case it would be even more dangerous, because by default you get routed to employees work, right? Now if I give Amit over here, which is an unknown route, then also you will go to the same URL, but this time you are not seeing employees over here. So you might get confused that sometimes it shows me employees work for this URL, and sometimes when I have a wrong route and it redirects itself to the same URL, then that same URL is not showing me employees. So this is pretty confusing to some users. So better way, you define a default route. And what is that default route? Just like in a switch case, if nothing else matches, then default case gets triggered. Just like that, this routing is always matched from the top to the bottom. And if none of these routes matches, then the bottommost route will be matched. So let me create a default route over here. I'll copy any route and I'll paste it over here, and here instead of the URL I'll just give star star. Star star means anything. If nothing else matches, then anything should redirect you to a certain component. And which component should be? It should be a component which says page not found, or the URL is wrong, something like that. Okay, so let me create that component. I'll go to my terminal number 2 and I'll say that ng generate component page not found. And yes, it has created that component. Now I will just write that particular component over here. Control dot enter. Now if I don't give anything, then it gets redirected to employees route, and if I give some different thing, let us say Amit, which is not a defined route, then it redirects to page not found. Okay, and the URL remains the same. Okay, so that you can figure out that you have given a wrong URL. So this is a very standard way of doing it. This is what Angular recommends you to do it. But now let me also tell you one fun fact. If I put this over here at the top, then as I told you, routing will always be done from top to bottom. Okay, so this path will match for every route possible. Okay, so no matter which route you give, this one will always match. So it will match even for employees. So as soon as this one matches, it just shows you this particular page, and then the routing is done. It won't even see what is below it. Okay, so it is going from top to bottom. Whichever matches the first, it shows that particular component. So let's see that in action. Now even if you give employees over here, then also it will redirect you to page not found component. Why? Because this one matched And then it did not even go further to see what are the other routes, do I match or not. No, it will just say that, I matched over here, then I need to show this particular component. Okay, so always remember that this default route should always be your last route, so you always give it over here. Now notice that here there is a comma. As soon as I save it, it will go away, so don't worry about linting. You have prettier in place. Now everything is working fine. If we give Amit over here, it will say page not found. So this is about routing, and this is about creating of the components.